and Tov Kuf Beis Sif Beis.
Whenever the Rav is ready.
Okay. Aguda Shal Eitzim Shehudlika B'Madura Kol Eitz. This is a fascinating halacha. I'm going to start by giving a piece of rabbinical history. There are those people in America, as of today still, that on Yom Tov they turn down the fire on their stove. Now, this question, whether you're allowed to turn down the fire on the stove, is a fascinating question, and it has to do with this Sif in Shulchan Aruch. I'm going to try to... you're not allowed to be mechabe on Yom Tov unless you're being mechabe in order to cook. Now, what is called being mechabe? This is a question. That's not so clear. Let's say I have a bunch of trains that go from a coal storeroom to the furnace and dump in coal all the time. And I stop, I put something on the track, so now the trucks can't bring the coal to the furnace. So now it's going to go off. Am I a mechaber?
No.
What did I do?
Stopped it. Continue. You prevent it from continuing once it burns out. Once it runs out of fuel.
Okay. I have a candle. You know, I'm an old guy. When I was a kid, candles looked like this. They didn't look like little discs. Right? Nowadays, you can't just have a candle like a, you know. Now, I have a Hanukkah candle. It's, you know, we all know what a Hanukkah candle is. And I cut the Hanukkah candle. Am I a mechaber?
Differently to the other one. You're not putting the fire out. You're causing it to go out earlier than it would have otherwise. It would have burned for 10 minutes, and it's going to burn for 5.
Isn't there a discussion about oil dripping and you stop the oil from dripping into the candle?
That's a little bit of a different subject. A little bit. Maybe we'll just touch on that.
It's not precisely the same.
It's not the same as taking out the spoonful of oil from
No. Each one of these cases is slightly different. I'll just tell you that the Baal Peh, they say B'Shem Moshe Feinstein, that he held that turning off the gas is not putting out the fire.
turning off or making another.
Turning off the gas even is also not putting out the fire.
The gas underneath the...
Is that back when
Yeah.
they had pilot lights, or it didn't matter?
I don't think it matters.
Well, no, the gas is the best for putting out the fire. Because it was a flame that was there.
Removing the source of fuel.
That's my truck.
The truck is different. The fire will still burn for a few hours before you refuel it. As soon as you turn the gas off.
So you're just a very not patient fellow. Is there really a difference?
Yes, because when you turn the dial on the gas, you're physically causing the gas to stop. When you're refueling, you're not doing anything. It will burn out till it burns out, and you're just not refueling it.
That's exactly what's happening. Whatever is after the dial is going to go to the fire. And what's the difference between me putting...
Because one's more direct. When you turn the dial down...
It happens more immediately?
No, it's more of a direct action.
Why is it more direct?
Because when I stop the truck from reaching,
Yeah.
doesn't directly stop the It's more indirect. It's not the same.
You said that before.
It's more
Like,
indirect.
I can
It's a very similar
move the
thing.
knob
Not
back to
exactly.
the meter. Turn off that.
Yeah.
Closer to the truck.
Okay, and what about if I go turn off the gas of the whole building?
Same thing.
Okay, so he disagrees with you.
Stop the
Yeah,
gas.
yeah.
Stop the flow of gas.
Yeah.
It's not the same as the train.
Yeah.
It's slightly different.
Okay. Now this is a question, and the Chazon Ish was furious at anybody who ever had such a tzad to be makel on such a thing. There's a long tshuva in the Tzitz Eliezer about this subject, but the subject revolves around something which we're going to learn. Now, I have over here a stick that's on fire, and it's inside the bonfire. You know, it's inside the fire, and I take it out. When I take a stick out, it probably will go out. In other words, if it's not in the, you know, when they're in the fire, so they feed on each other and they keep it going. When you take it out, you're going to definitely put it into a situation of suffix that it's going to go out. So the question is, are you allowed to take a stick out of the fire?
For what purpose does it make a difference?
So let's see. Madura shel eitzim shuhud aguda shel eitzim shuhud lekab mid madura. You have a bunch of sticks that you put them on fire as a madura. Kol eitz le'achza bo ha'eish mutar l'shamtoi. Any
Not properly on fire.
yeah. Ve'eino doime le'meiser shemen miner. Okay. Now, do I have to translate the words?
That's the shaman there. Is that the same as turning the gas off?
worse.
That's worse. Meiser nemen asher. That's Taisus. It's Mefurish. That's called mechaber. And if I cut off the bottom of a candle, that's also called mechaber. According to most of us. That's right. You're right.
That's when you have enough oil there, it lasts for 2 days, done to this one day.
Ken.
It's also called machaber?
Ken, I think so. Okay. Now, so what did we just say? What did we just say?
You can remove a stick as long as it's not properly on fire.
Okay.
What is, in this case, what is Shamto?
The shalmite means to remove it, to knock it out.
I'm sorry, to knock out the fire, to knock out the
Take
stick?
the stick
Not take a stick out of the bundle.
Stick from the
Just
bottom.
removing the stick from the bucket.
Right. So we don't see that as part of the fire, or part of the fuel.
Because it isn't. It hasn't. It's not yet properly.
And what about the gas in my pipe?
The gas in the pipe is still not lit.
So it should be mutter.
And what about
I think I got you.
But no, the candle also. The candle is not yet lit. That part and then it's
So I understand. So the question is, when do we say that it becomes part of the candle? That's the question.
Part of the candle or part of the fuel source?
Yeah.
There is a warehouse, a fuel warehouse, and there is the fuel of the fire. And when does it become part of the fuel of the fire? That's the same thing. That's what we're discussing over here. Now here is an even more fascinating halacha. Let's read the Ramah. Umutar likach eitz hadolok mitzad zeh shel hamadura v'lanicho b'tzad acher hoyo ve'eno mechaven lekibui.
You're just moving it to the other side, so the other side catches fire.
What about, could I knock it out, put it out, and then relight it?
Well, mechaber, I mean, that's the hardly.
Then you're being
Yeah.
It's like steer on the steel.
Right, which is usher. Right? So why over here does he say that you're allowed to do this?
Because you're not pushing it down.
Oh.
It might blow out, but you're not.
Okay. So here it's a secretia maybe, or is a mechaven.
Right.
But is he doing the malacha?
Is he putting it out?
He's putting it out by taking it out of the fire. He's putting it out.
discovered until he has a loophole, if you will.
But that make it not
Keep
into the
away
Raisa.
his kid. Right. Keep
Are
away
we
my
concerned
kid.
about the actual wood fire itself? Are you pulling that out? It's gonna go out 2 minutes early because you have less wood in the fire. That's the issue.
Whatever is there is going to burn to the same amount. What you took out, that's what's going to be. That's what's
No, but what he's
diminishing.
saying, just like the candle is this long and therefore that's the fuel, so that whatever sticks were there, when you lit the fire, if you remove half the sticks, it's going to go out quicker.
Yeah. So the question over here is, when do I say that it's part of the candle?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the definition of being part of the every fire has to have three things. It has to have oxygen, has to have a fuel, and it has to have a wick. Right? Anything that's not part of those things is your choo-choo train. So when does it become consecrated that that's what it is? That's the question which we're discussing.
What I've seen advertisements, people that you sell.
Don't believe it, false advertising.
Sell devices that turn off the gas automatically, like a time switch.
Yeah.
So that's no issue because it's set before Yom Tov. It's set to turn it off at a certain time.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
You're causing the gas to go off, but
Right.
it's going to go off.
Right.
You're not doing anything, and you're just setting something that you arranged to happen before Yom Tov.
Right.
It's going to happen. So
You put a timer on your
Like
light.
your
Yeah.
air conditioner,
That's
yeah.
fine.
It's like
Yeah,
a
same
shower's
thing, no?
clock, yeah.
Same thing as an air conditioner. Right. Maybe a little bit different. I just would like to say something about that device. I'm right now quoting Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. He said that if you count all the gas of leaving your fires on from the time you get married until you're in an old age home, it's less money than it costs for that device.
How much is gas?
That device costs like $100. It's an expensive device. Okay? How much does it cost for the gas that you have? What?
Run a fling.
It's not,
The money is
right?
having a flame all the time.
Yeah.
It's nervous.
There's some people are nervous, and some people that are, it's like the drip in your sink, right? You have a drip in your sink, which costs you 2 shekel a month, and you spend 100 shekel to get a new beres, right? This is like, but it's not a financial consideration. It's it gets on your nerves kind of situation.
Today they have devices. I have an oven, all the modern ovens, they go off automatically.
After 12 hours.
No, if the flame goes out for some reason, it'll
That's
go
called a
out.
thermocouple.
Yeah, the gas stops, yeah.
The gas will stop.
That's called a thermocouple.
Yeah.
That has a different problem. That is a subject, might as well just mention over here. There's a question whether you're allowed to use if you're allowed to light such a fire on Yom Tov. What happens, the way that works is, there is a alternate route for the gas to get to your fire. There's the normal pipe, and besides to that, there's a side pipe that can bring gas to the whatever that thing is called. And what happens is when you press in, you turn the knob and you press it in, and then you light it. And what happens is when you're pressing it in, you're having the gas go through this other route, and after the fire is lit, there's a little thing over there that gets hot, and it creates an electromagnet, and that electromagnet opens up the orifice of the regular pipe that brings in the gas to the fire.
Down and it closes.
Right. So now the question is, are you allowed to create that open door for the there's actually a Rav here in Beit Shemesh in Zenoach. He wrote 150 pages on this subject. He held it's 100% mutter. And there are those who have issues with this issue, Well, Yashiv seemed to have said that lechatchila maybe one should be machmer, but if anybody wants to read it, I can tell you where you can get a hold of this thing. Okay. Anyways, so these are questions that they didn't have when I was a kid. You know, they didn't. These devices didn't exist.
They also had a lot of oven fires.
That could be. Okay, so let's now see the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, "Agura shel eitz, avolim ochso ba'esh, also l'salkoi." You're not allowed to take out the eish if you have a piece of wood on fire that's already in the bonfire, that's already in the bunch. Debazeh memayit ha'esh shel aguda kuloi, kivan shagoadim yachad. You are diminishing the fire. Avolim ein agudim yachad. Because we don't say that it's part of the fire. As soon as you take one out, you're already being over on kiboy. Since so there it's like ve'im shamto kach kedei sheyichbe oser ve'mechaven kedei lanichu b'tzad acher or b'madura acheres shori, because it can be that you're just splitting the fire into smaller pieces, you're not diminishing, but it could be that you're making the fire smaller. So it's not clear what you're doing, so that's called your Einem Mischaven, and therefore it depends what you're doing. It V'lanichu b'tzad acher, hu adinim shamto v'locho misham kedei lohoyer lefonov gam ken shara, the Einem Mischaven l'kivoy. Your purpose is you want it to be lit. Your purpose is not for it to go out. V'yesh machmirin b'zeh, v'nochoy lahachmir, v'tzorach lahazir b'nei beisoy, kishemevashlim dogim shel achar gemar habishol, if this is you shouldn't take they would make a fire, and after they finished baking the fish or whatever they're doing, they would remove the pieces of wood and they would go out on the side. Don't do that. Let it burn itself out. You're causing them to go out. This is I'll just add, while we're discussing the subject of cooking, Ramosha Feinstein has a tshuva, and he asks over there a question and he gives an answer, and I'm not sure which is worse, the question or the answer. Which is worse, to do one Isser D'Oraisa or to do a lot of Isser D'Rabbanans? What?
Now I get your comment.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a choice.
Right.
Which would you rather, if you're forced to do one?
One or the other to do.
None. That's not an answer.
What says the Rabbanan?
What? So Ramosha says one Isser D'Oraisa. Better be over one Isser D'Oraisa and not so many Isser D'Rabbanans. His subject is being machaba, making many hadlokas in order to keep a fire going, or to be machaba. And the machaba is an Isser D'Oraisa, and to make more fires, it's an Isser D'Rabbanan. And he says better to do one D'Oraisa than the D'Rabbanans. It's a fascinating tshuva, and we're not going to get involved in it, but it has to do with this subject of how to cook on Yom Tov. So I'm just telling you about it over here.
What's the difference between taking the oil out of the nair and
That's called in the fire.
anything in the cup is called already in the fire, let's say?
That's called, right. You have a cup of oil,
Yeah.
it's all burning now. That's how we see it in halacha.
Okay, as opposed to a pile of sticks?
Right. Those are separate things that are burning. Possibly. That's the subject.
Each stick, kilo, is considered
It's his own thing.
piece
Right.
of fuel, but
Right.
the whole cup is considered the whole
Right.
thing burning?
That's the question. There are those who say that all the sticks are one thing. That's the shaila. That's the shaila. Yeah. Okay. All right. Ein saimchim es hakedera v'lo es hadeles bebekas. You have a piece of firewood, and the firewood is going to be used on Yom Tov for firewood. So if I were to ask you in the Kloli HaMuksa, would you say that firewood is muksa?
So it's exactly opposite of what we said last week, which is if you didn't set something aside for fire, you can't use it for fire. This is exactly opposite. If you set it for fire, you can't use it for another use.
Right, but because this is not called a real use. This is a, okay. You can't use it as a doorstop or as a, to make your thing straight. But you're allowed to use it as firewood. Even though it's like a little twig or something that doesn't work by itself, but this is what its purpose is. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the eitzim la'asaka him oimdim v'loy ledover acher. They don't have another purpose. V'lochein afilu bekas yevesha shenachon la'asaka also letaltal letzarech dover acher. Ubechlal muksa hu lazeh. It's considered that it's muksa for other things. V'das kam machronim the machaber ozol l'shitose. The pasuk says in the muksa aser b'yom tov. Avodas hapoiskin the matir muksa b'yom tov. Mutar lismach bekas yevesha for asaka. Avol balacha kiwan shein roi la'asaka. Then it's aser. Okay.
It means this particular way this piece of wood is shaped. That's make it only for asaka.
No, it's just a piece of firewood. Right. A log.
Right.
What we call a log.
People use wood for building. They're saying this
not
is
logs.
This is not right.
Not logs. This is just a piece of firewood. That's what it is. I just would like to share with you a vart from the Brisker Rav over here. It has nothing to do with the halacha. The pasuk in Kehela says, "Kekol ha'etzim tachas hasir, kach kol ha'aksil eitzel ha'chachamim." Okay, those words make absolutely no sense. So the Brisker Rav explained as follows. What?
Translate that.
As the wood burns under a pot is equal to the fool amongst Talmidei Chachamim.
Not doing what thistles making like a.
So he explains as follows. He explains that the tzad hashava of all wood is that you can burn with it. Right? All wood. Mahogany, redwood, all woods, they burn. Okay? Twigs and thistles, the only thing you could do with them is use them for firewood. Right? So when a person has a fire and he puts in the thistles, so they crackle and they're telling you, look at me, I'm burning, I'm a piece of wood, I belong to the group, I'm a chashuv fellow, right? Whereas the piece of mahogany, he's not very proud of being burnt as a fire because you could do much better things with him, so he's just quiet. So it says so too when you have a ksil bein chachamim, if he has some kind of something to say, he's always there talking because he's trying to show that he's part of the group. This is a fascinating piece of human nature, which is basically this piece of firewood, that's all it's good for. Okay. Lididon mutal avashel. Now this is the next halacha, is fascinating. A person who has a metal pot, when it's used the first time, so it there's a word for it. There's a word for it. I can't remember right now. The word. What?
Temper.
Right, it tempers it. Okay? Now, different kinds of pots need different processes to finish them off. And the question is, can you use a new pot the first time on Yom Tov? Because you're doing something to the pot. You're galvanizing it. I don't know what you're doing exactly. L'didan mutar levashel b'kedeiros chadashos b'Yom Tov. V'yesh oisrim v'chein haminig. Says here the Mishnah Berurah. The Hainu Mishum Diyesh Oisam Vashu Deich Rosh Yom Tov K'mo Shekos V'Amom Mishum De Babishol Rishon Mischazekes HaKedera. The pot becomes stronger. The Koydem Bishol Nikeba Pleitas Hamayim Bachutz V'yesh Berzeh Mishum Tikun Mona. V'das Havar B'chaber K'Rabbein Yeruchim De B'Keder Shalanu Nigra Bishulam Kvar Eitzel HaYetzer V'Lochay Mutar L'Didan L'Vashel B'Keder Chadasha. There's nothing happening because it's totally done when you get it. V'chein ha-minig, to be machmer, v'das ha-mogen Avram, l'chalek, the kelim ha-mitzu from shekar glaziert, which is like porcelain, machzike, machazkim b'mayim b'toiv, av koyre bishul, l'chein mutar l'vash b'em b'yom tif. V'amnig l'hachmer, hurak b'kelim she'ein glaziert. Ones that don't have like a finish on them. Okay. Okay.
Does this apply to nowadays pots too? This is in our reality?
I don't think this applies to our pots.
The whole problem with the pots that are tempered, they temper it with non-kosher stuff.
They don't temper it. That's a different issue. They put a shine on it. They put a shine on it. Yeah, this is from the halachas that I call them Hilchos Yom. Anything that the Chazon Ish wrote about in his sefer becomes Torah L'Deiros, even though it's not. In the 1950s, it was still common that to put a sheen on the pots, they would smear it with fat, and then they would put them into an oven, and that would give it a shine. And it was very common at that time to use shumon min hachai, and it was a question whether the pots became treif or not. And if they became treif, it was a question of how do you kosher them? Does it need libun or does it need hagolah? The Chazon Ish in Sefer writes that hagolah is enough, and therefore, if you'll go before Rosh Chodesh in Fruma neighborhoods, every Shabbos Mevorchim they have hagolas kelim, and there are people with new pots that are bringing them there to get them koshered. Yeah. Now, whether or not this phenomenon is relevant today, the last time that I checked this out was about 15 years ago. A friend of mine spoke to the chemist from, what's the name of that pot company here in this country? Sultan. And he said that they buy, this some kind of oils on the glut market, and it could be from one of 2,000 different sources. That's when you buy it on and he said at that time, nowadays, Shuma min hachai is expensive. The stuff that comes from derivatives of things that are grown or from other sources are much cheaper. And he said he highly doubts that you have any reason to be choishish on the free market that it has any macholos asuris in it. In other words, that's I'm saying a scientific fact of 15 years ago. Could be that's changed since then. This you have to know, you have to be abreast. And if that's true, so then the question doesn't exist. It's not that the answer is wrong, the question doesn't exist. But as I said at that time, but it says it in the Sefer Chazon Ish to kosher it, so it's not changing. People will kosher it. Okay?
It's not different from the apocryphal story of someone that came to a shul and noticed that at a certain place in the shul everyone bowed down and couldn't look it out. And he found the reason was 20 years ago there was a low ceiling there.
Right.
People got so used to bowing down.
Right, but there, at least when it switched, people knew why they were bowing down. Right here, this is the kind of a thing that people don't know. They assume that it's just the process, the way that you make pots, that causes that it has to happen, and this you have to know. Okay. Next siman. Shelo lahacha miyom tov l'chaveroi. Also levashel, la'afos levashel, or lishchoit biyom tov l'tzarech mochar. Afilu hu Shabbos, a Yom Tov, afilu shnei Yom Tov, shal Rosh Hashanah. Now with an Erev Tavshilin, the halacha will be different. Aval, here's a fascinating halacha. Memali isha kedera basar, afal pi she'en l'tzarech ela l'chaticha achas. You're allowed to make more than you planned. V'kol sheken sheyachol lishchot afal pi she'en l'tzarech ela kezayis. V'chein yachol levashel harbi kederes, v'lechol mikol achas ma'at. V'davka koydem achila. This which is mutter to do this is only if it's before you ate. Aval acha achira ein liyachol levashel, v'loy mar oichel mimena kezayis. And you can't do it after you ate and say, I'll eat from it a kezayis. Dahavi aroma. That's called... That's aroma. It's not aroma. We'll see why. We're not finished.
It's difficult. Not in Bates, I found it very difficult to understand.
What?
I got it.
When we learned this in Bates, I found it very difficult to understand why you take one piece and pretend you take a piece of I don't really want it, put it back, take another piece. Well, that's not really aroma.
Okay. Kivan she'enon yodim achshav ma'nikra gedela ktana yesh las hakol. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Also, lav the field over she'en melacha rak tircha, kigon adochas karas, v'avos yai miyom tov l'chaver gam kein also k'mo she'izbar. Okay. Afilu Shabbos, then Yom Tov mechel Shabbos, the alpha bikro. Okay, the Yom Tov l'chol os. O Yom Tov, the return Yom Tov down the Shen Shagolas, the Suffolk Chol Hu, v'nimtza mechel Yom Tov l'chol. Afilu Shnei Yom Tov Shalosh Chol la'achmed, amina kedush achasem beloy l'hakel. Afilu Mala, afilu achar shenicha kedera al eish, muteres l'hoisev basar, mibnei sha'tavshel mesuken yoser kisheyesh sham basar harbe. This is a fascinating concept. The Gemara discusses this in a place where I believe that there are people that will tell you when you put bread in the oven and you have a full oven, it bakes better. I've heard that this is true. When I say true, it means that nowadays in our ovens that this is okay. Now I'm just going to share this with you. Anybody who wants to make cholent, it's easier to make cholent for 6 people than for 2.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, why is that? Because what?
It's going to dry out. It's too small.
So you see, that's like an example of making more makes the smaller amount better. I'm just using that as an example. That's not the point what he's talking about, but this is a similar kind of an idea. I lost my place. I will share tashira en rishoy lahoysev b'shil alayla shomeretz kvar b'gdera al eish ve'eno moister shvach al yedei zu v'tavshil. V'chein kishetzolim basar al hashpud en rishoy lahoysev b'shil alayla kishe'omed kvar b'hashpud al eish. Aval b'tchila yochel lahoysev al hashpud kama sheyirtza kivan shehu b'tircha achas. This is one in one go. You don't have a tircha problem, and therefore it's mutter. Afal pi she'eino tzricha, v'hainu afim kavanosa b'toises abasa b'shil alayla, shuchol, afal pi ke mutter, kivan shal koponim tzricha l'chaticha achas lechol b'yom tov. V'eskimu ha b'achroinim, d'mikol mokom tizor shelo temar b'peh shemevasheles l'tzorech alayla. Mikol mokom b'di'ever eino nesa al yedei zeh. You shouldn't make a statement about it.
So it's because it helps this dish, or it's because once I'm cooking, I'm allowed to cook whatever I want?
Both components are true. If it's something that, if it's tircha achas, then it's okay. But also there's an aspect of that it makes it better. When making it better, he's talking about what's already ala eish, and you're adding. But if it's tircha achas,
Well, the initial
Right.
thing I'm allowed to do because it's tircha achas, and kama pots is also considered tircha achas?
no. But there you have to be there. You have to eat from each one. I'm going to share with you something which I heard from a very famous, world famous Rav. He wrote a tshuva about this. One of the big problems of today's generation is not that we have to drink soda. It has to be cold. Right? That's a very important yesod. And here it is, Rosh Hashanah in the afternoon, and we don't have cold soda for tonight. What kind of year is it going to be? Right? So we want to put soda into the refrigerator. How can we put soda into the refrigerator? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what he said. If I'm going to drink soda still on Rosh Hashanah in the afternoon, I could put in a bottle for then, and then I'll have leftover afterwards. But what about, can I put on Rosh Hashanah in the morning before I go to shul ample amount, and I'll decide later on which one I'm going to take to eat on the first day, and then the other one's already in the refrigerator. So I put it into the refrigerator planning that maybe I'm going to use it. So he has a whole tshuva on to say how this could be allowed, possibly. I don't think that it's allowed, but what I will say, what I do believe is true, that if you take a little bit from it, that's for sure okay. And similarly, what I say, that people who have this problem for Rosh Hashanah, they want to have challahs fresh. Put your challah in the freezer before Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah in the morning, when you take out your challahs for Rosh Hashanah morning, have in the same bag the challahs for Rosh Hashanah in the evening, and it'll be okay. In other words, till it defrosts, till you get to the meal, it'll be okay. But then that's not called that you did a piece of hachana, because you took that bag out because you needed the challahs that you're using for the morning. No, they're different.
Frozen ones.
Frozen ones,
You're
yeah.
going to heat them up.
Are you going to heat them up, or when you go to shul on Rosh Hashanah morning? What time is it?
5 to 7.
Okay, and when are you eating?
6:55. Whenever I remember, every year, 1:30 to 2:30.
Okay, so do you have to really put it onto the oven?
No.
Right. So if it's your wife that's doing it before she comes with Tkiyah Shofar, then maybe you have that issue. But and they'll be okay, even though since you're taking them out of freezer till the night, they'll still be okay. So it's not such a bad idea. Okay.
But to put in 5 bottles of soda on Rosh Hashanah night or day, first day, and
Yeah.
you know you're only going to have one. You're saying that's a problem?
That's a question. I don't think that it's permitted. I think he wants to. He has a tshuva that he wrote that I think so he holds that it is okay. I don't think that it's okay, because you know what you want. You take one bottle and it's out.
No, I don't know which one. Maybe I'll be in the mood of punch, maybe I'll be in the mood
But
of coke.
hachana usually requires...
Yeah, if that's the kind, that's your suffix. But if I'm putting in 3 bottles of
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Fine,
But
but if there are 3 different flavors and I
I
haven't
think,
yet decided on the
that's fine.
But hachana usually requires doing a malacha or today, which...
It doesn't.
for tomorrow.
It doesn't even have to be a malacha. It could be a tircha.
This is completely different.
And this is, just use this, hadochas koros, v'avoas yayin. Those are not malachas. Okay? V'adin.
Why are you allowed to add on the shpok a tircha achas? What? Why can't I, if I'm doing a shpok,
Because, so I'm just putting it on at one time.
but for tomorrow?
Yeah, but you're doing it, you're making the food now.
I only need 1 piece now. You've been telling me I need to eat a bunch of pieces. For sure.
So, but you can eat from that thing. That's just like more on the it's like a bigger potato. That's all. Okay. והוא הדין אם אינו צריך רק לתבשל או לרויית בלבד, גם כן שרי, לכל זה משביח על ידי התוספת בשר. He doesn't make it if you just want the gravy. The more bread, the more meat there is, the better the gravy. ואם אינו צריך לסעודת היום כלל, ועיקר בישול רק לצורך הלילה, ואוכל קצת ממנה כי היכי דלוי לסר עליה לבשל, יש דרך בין הפוסקים. If you're really not planning to eat it now, and you're just really doing it for tonight, and all this is a trick, what we call a harama, yesh oisrim do b'chal harama, v'yesh matir, kivan shal kaponim, oichel ksas mimeno, v'gam u'koidem achila, and it's before you ate. V'oilam nagu l'hokal kedei azu, shemavashon shachar z'tzorech halayla, v'tomim ksas mehem, v'ein limchos b'yodam k'yesh lahem al mi sheyismechu. Okay. ודווקא יום טוב ראשון ליום טוב שני, אבל ביום טוב לחול יש לזהור בזה. והמחווה כדי הראשון שלא לבשל לצורך לילה בכדי בפני עצמי, אלא בעצם כדי עצמו שמבשל לצורך סעודת שחרית, ומרבה בו לצורך הלילה, טוב ולא ברכה ועין לקמון, סבכות ניוד. אוקיי. ודווקא שיש בזה תועלת לצורך היום על ידי הריבוי. אבל also לעשות חרמז לך או קרפ לך כיצא בזה יסע ממה שצריך לבוא ביום, שאין לך משביח חבר וצריך תיכה בכל אחד ואחד בפני עצמי. I cannot make things that there is no advantage in the riboy.
I'll eat a little bit of each one.
Of each matzo ball,
Yeah.
and then put it back in with the other. Guess
I'll use a spoon, obviously, and a fork.
Okay? Okay. That, for some, I don't think he came up with that idea.
Yeah, clearly not.
But the kol shken sheyachol lishchot, the kol shken mishum diyesh lishchot b'li kizayis echot, elam ken yishchot kol behema. V'dafkem yesh adayin shows ad zman achila lahafshel mochel avashel al kaponim v'letzleisai. You have to have the time that you can prepare it before you eat your meal. Avol mo yaspik kol kach ad achas zman achila aser kilakamei. Then you can't do it anymore. וכן לא יוכל לבשל הרבה כדרה, ורצה ללמד אפילו כוונות לצורך הלילה, כיוון שרוצה לאכול מכל אחס בסעודת שחרית, מהר שכל כדרה היה מבשל מן בפני עצמו. They're not 6 pots with the same thing. Each one has a different flavor of meat. אבל מן אחד בשתי כדרת אין להדה כיוון שטעם שתי הכדרת שהוא שווה. ואם כן, כל מה שטוב משתיהם יכול לטעום מאחס. נמצא שהכדרה השנייה אינו מבשל כאילו לצורך הלילה. Even though you're eating from it, but there is no real gain. So it has to be that they're different flavors, so therefore you could say that you're gaining from each one. Lechol mikol achas ma'at, mistimos l'shon l'mashal, afilo ein tzorch lechol rak, shetoy ma'at mikol kedei, kedei shiyeh lo heter levashal. V'ani kedasa mekilin le'il, v'yesh ha'isrim, ein heter rak l'mi shedaita ba'emes lechol mikol min, Chalukah b'tzur shachas, you really want to have a little bit. Mikiwan de lahabas mikol min kadei shishor b'layla, avol loy, k'shetoyim rak derech harama, u'ksar kazav do nogim k'das ha'mekilim. Dahavi harama, v'zeh kuli ama osa av she'or chalach ha'kach me'at, dahavi harama, nikeres, lakol kiwan shu kvar asuri, already ate it suda. Okay, we'll stop over here.